All right, today we are continuing the Tampa Explained series, and we are going to talk about the east suburbs, the suburbs that are just east of the city of Tampa. Here we go. I'm Sam, and thanks for coming by the Living in Tampa channel, where every single week we make videos about what it's like to live and move to the Tampa, Florida area. If that's something you want to follow along with, don't forget to subscribe down below. I'm also a licensed realtor in the state of Florida, so if you have any real estate specific questions, don't hesitate to reach out anytime. My phone number and email are right there on the screen. So we have been working our way around the map of the area of Tampa. Now that we are out of the Tampa proper area, we are going to focus on the suburbs to the east of Tampa. When I say the east suburbs, I'm really talking about this area on the map. It kind of starts at Brandon as kind of the central city in the area, down all the way to Ruskin, out to like Lithia and Fishhawk area, and then up to Plant City and even Temple Terrace. That's just on the east side of like North Tampa. And the reason I'm including all of these is because they're really kind of one big chunk, and we'll get into some specifics of each of these areas. And I've even made another video about the Brandon Riverview area, and I'll have some more coming on that in the future. And just a reminder, the criteria for this Tampa Explained series is proximity, size, style, and cost. So we're going to go through those one after the next. And we'll start with proximity. Overall, this area is really close to, like, let's say downtown Tampa. So let's say you're working in downtown Tampa. This commute can be easy depending on the time of day, but it can get really, really backed up. I hear this from a lot of people that live out in this area, that I-75 gets really backed up. And one reason this happens is because of the size of these towns. We don't often realize that some of these suburbs are really big towns. Brandon has about 115,000 people, and Riverview has about 95,000 people. And these towns sit right across I-75, with a lot of the population needing to commute up toward Tampa for work. And of course, not all of the population is commuting up that way, but since there is such a significant amount of the people commuting up that way, it gets really, really backed up. And these, like I said, these are not small towns. 100,000 to 200,000 people in this like two towns is a pretty big population. But under perfect conditions, the commute to downtown is really not bad at all, especially the further north you are, and especially if you are north of Highway 60. If you're up in Temple Terrace, or you're just north of Highway 60, like the Seffner, Dover area, or even out in Plant City, this commute to Tampa is not too bad. Once you get further down south or southeast in this area, the commute into Tampa gets pretty rough. Proximity to beaches is actually pretty far. There are a couple of beaches down in Apollo Beach, one that's kind of a nature preserve, and then one that's more of a swimming beach. And then the beaches, you can either go up through Tampa over to St. Petersburg, Pinellas County area, or you can go down south to Manatee County, Bradenton area, or Sarasota. And those are beautiful beaches down there as well. And those are kind of equidistant from this area. Unless you're, really on the far end, north end of this area, then Pinellas County beaches are closer. If you're on the south end of this area, then the Sarasota beaches are going to be closer. Some of you may be questioning why I'm including Plant City in this video. And it's because a lot of people ask about Plant City. Plant City is a little bit further out, has about 40,000 people. It is a little bit more rural, has a lot of farming, has a lot of berry farming. We actually go out there and pick blueberries a couple times a year, like kind of early in the summer. That's a fun thing to do out there. But this town is a decent option if you want to live in a smaller town and you are working on like the east side of Tampa. Since the Tampa airport is really central to the Tampa area, really in between Hillsborough County and Pinellas County, the drive is kind of far for most of this area. When it comes to shopping and things to do, all of that stuff is very accessible. A lot of development has happened along I-75 in Brandon and Riverview, and there is a lot to do. But keep in mind that those things to do are pretty suburban things like shopping and Topgolf. If you live in that area, you're probably annoyed that I'm simplifying it to those kind of things, but from an outside perspective, that is really what it feels like in the area. There isn't really like an interesting restaurant scene or an art scene or other activities in that kind of category. Okay, number 2 is size. And as we said previously, Brandon is about 115,000 people and Riverview is about 95,000 people. And when you look at the cities in Florida, that actually puts them like in the top 20 of all cities in Florida. So these are not small areas. They are pretty congested areas. I mean, pretty congested like along the main corridors, but they get a lot more rural as you go east. And a lot of new development has happened out toward the east in areas like Fishhawk. But some of these older communities like Bloomingdale are just older master plan communities, and they have a really nice, mature feel to them. And all of them are kind of their own thing. This area might feel like it's mostly suburbs, but each of these suburbs kind of has a different feel. So with that, let's go right into style. This is a mostly suburban area. The homes and the amenities kind of have that suburb kind of feel. And some of the towns, you know, Brandon and Riverview and even like Apollo Beach have their own little downtown area, but it doesn't feel like an old downtown with like a unique charm. A lot of the development has happened along the interstate and feels kind of big box. But there are a lot of other small businesses in these areas. It's just not consolidated in a downtown area like in some other suburbs in the Tampa area. There are a lot of houses in these areas that were built in the 60s and 70s, and some of these have really big lots and they're really unique houses. But in the last 10 to 20 years, there's been a lot of new development in this area with builders building new communities in all kinds of price ranges. A lot of people call me because they see advertisements from builders about new communities in these areas, and these communities get reserved very, very quickly. Builders in the Tampa area were very affected with the last real estate market crash in 2007 and 8, so they don't really build a lot of homes at a time. They release a certain amount, they like sell those, they kind of reserve those spots to buyers, and then they build those, and then they go and do another community. They kind of gave up on the model of building a lot of what's called speculation homes or spec homes in these areas because they were stuck with so many of these spec homes during the last crash, and they took massive losses on those. So the new construction market in this area is a little more conservative in the way that it approaches these kind of growth times. So a lot of the time, a builder will start a new community and they will release these lots to be reserved. And maybe it's just like a $500 deposit to reserve these. And say there's 100 lots in this neighborhood. Typically, all those lots get reserved within about a week. 6 months later, maybe they're going to present you with a contract, and then that will be the time when your prices are revealed. You can kind of get close to it whenever you reserve your lot, but they won't give you any final prices because building materials might go up, the market's going to go up, all those kind of factors are going to be considered. And then they start building your house. 9 to 12 months later, you can move in. So it's not a really fast process in these areas right now. When it comes to cost in this area, this is our 4th criteria for the Tampa Explained series. Cost gets lower and lower the further you get from downtown Tampa. A lot of people think that it gets really expensive on the beach, and there are some areas along the beach that are pretty expensive. But as you get further from the center of Tampa or further from the center of St. Petersburg or Clearwater, as long as you're avoiding these main city centers, it gets quite a bit cheaper. And that is very true in this area, this being kind of one of the few areas where you can get houses for under $300,000. Not all of them are under $300,000, but you can find a lot of properties, 3 to 4 bedroom homes for under $300,000 or right around that. And they go up and up from there as your lots get bigger, as your houses get nicer and bigger, and all of those factors. If you want to check out my other video about the Brandon and Riverview area, that's linked right up here. And also linked right up here are the other Tampa Explained videos. If you've missed any of those, it's always good to go back and keep up with this whole series. So this is kind of the east suburbs. There's a lot of potential in this area. There's a lot of ranging of, size, cost, style, but it all still feels pretty suburban. So if you're okay with that feel for now and you look forward to the future development of these areas, this will be an area that, really develops in the future because it's one of the directions that Tampa can grow. Cities are growing around the US, especially these mid-sized cities, and Tampa can really only grow to the north and to the east because of the water. So it's going to keep growing this way. This area is going to become more and more important to the city of Tampa. I hope you found this information useful. If you have any questions, comment down below. And if you have any questions about properties in these areas, or you want to move to Tampa, you want to start that process, feel free to reach out anytime. My phone number and email are right there on the screen. Thanks for coming by.